Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. All the introductions have been done, so I'll get stuck into my presentation. My presentation is going to be a sales pitch for those of you who do business in Zambia and who have not yet decided to join me on this group visit. I feel a lot of pressure having listened to Reese and how well Duncan has done, but both Paul, myself and Duncan have done many of these visits, and we will aim to and we will deliver at the same level. When we do our group visits, we really do it professionally. Just very quickly, we do a pilot visit where we go through the whole business of what is required to make the visit successful. We do a pre-visit, so we go ahead before the delegation arrives, and we make sure everything is in place, and then we receive the main delegation. When we go on these visits, and I will intersperse my presentation, there's a lot of things happening. It's not only the issues that Reese covered, it's also the interaction between the delegates and so on and so forth. Zambia is a country that is relatively close to South Africa, and it's very important to all of our industries who are close to the mining industry, and that obviously represents a big portion of our industry. But I would like you to ask that you indulge me just for a little bit. I have included a slide that I picked up on. All of us read about Africa all the time. The percentage change by 2050 in the population of Africa will be more than 100%. So Africa's population is going to double. And if you look at, interestingly, Asia, you know, we think of the big populations in Asia, and you look at Europe actually shrinking. So this is the numbers. So as we talk, just keep that in the back of your mind. And this one, the source is from the UN, but it was in the Economist. It was published on the online thing of the Economist. Just checking the countries that are dropping out of the top most populous countries, and looking at Egypt, Ethiopia, Nigeria jumping to the third in the world by 2050, and India and China swapping places. And what we are talking about tonight is the Congo as well, and the Copper Belt is actually integrated. So I just wanted to say, you know, long term we are latching onto this African story and a region that is really important. I've stolen this from my colleague Duncan. It's a very good slide that just gives you, we cover the Copper Belt here, and I'm not going to go through all of it, but our Southern African region, as we move ahead, with the Copper Belt being a very important cog in that wheel, if you want to call it that, in the next 10 to 20 years are actually going to become a very important business destination. And Johnny is going to talk to us about this and the positioning of Namibia as a gateway. That's really important. So it really fits in very nicely the Johnny's presentation because we've covered the Gazankulu thing already. Then the Copper Belt, with the new Copper Belt developing, and you'll also see in the highlights there are some new mines close to Lusaka. You have, in terms of the North-South Corridor, one of the ribs, if you want to call it that, the Ruvuma Basin, southern Tanzania, northern Mozambique story evolving, the Coal Belt, which again starts in the east of Botswana, the west of South Africa, and where the Walfish Bay story is also very important with what their plans are. And then, of course, something that's very dear to Paul's heart as well. The whole Katembe Bridge thing that they are now finalizing, one of the biggest, longest span bridge in Africa being completed across the bay, which we believe will unleash quite a bit of opportunities there. SA Angola, this route here is something that Duncan has paid a lot of attention to, and if you want more information about that, he's quite knowledgeable on the fact that this route will also lead to, and we've seen earlier on the Congo getting into the top 10 most populous countries. So this Zambia visit, the Copper Belt visit, fits right into the middle of this thing. And if you're serious about doing business in Africa, and what I would like to say is I know a lot of you travel there all the time, and I know that many of you already do business there. But as we know from Paul, the story here is also about hunting in packs and having a group presence and making sure you are on the map. And if you look at Zambia, and I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, the mining sector is 12% of its GDP, 70% of its export revenues come from it, and 62% of its foreign direct investment come from there. Last year, the production was 740,000 tons. This year, they're expecting 850,000 tons. It's the sixth largest producer of cobalt as well. And we know, if you don't know, cobalt is also one of those, like graphite, a mineral of the future. It's got a lot of properties that are going to fit into the new world economy, if you will. So without getting into too much detail with that, they also do gemstone mining. This is the big story and why you should go to the copper belt. They have just gone through 2 years of very low copper prices, with quite a lot of mines being put under maintenance and care, and most of them have come out of it, and we'll go through it. But the price has recovered to, at the moment, it's actually higher than, or yesterday it was higher than $6,500 per metric ton, and the World Bank expected to average at around $7,000 a ton. Anecdotally, I've been told by people who are very active there that once the copper price reaches a level of $4,500, $5,000 per metric ton, the mines normally work on that as a break even. So it's well above that, so we can expect some serious capital spending. The energy crisis has dissipated. It's not over yet, but the rainy season is coming up. They're dependent on hydropower for most of their energy, and there are also taxation and royalty issues. But that's why we are going there, is and you'll see from the program that I do, is we cover all these things. So the outlook is positive based on a higher copper price, drought reaching an end, and consideration of a sliding scale for royalties linked to the copper price. I just threw in that one quickly so you can have a picture. We are looking at having a visit to the DRC Congo as well, that copper belt. If you do the Zambia copper belt, it naturally follows that you have to cover the DRC. So we are, if you can believe it, starting to think about our program for next year, and we'll be planning our group visits for next year, and the Congo is going to feature strongly. It's a question of when. So in terms of future developments, we have been able to extract some indications of the kind of money that they'll be spending. Is Vendetta Resources at the Konkola copper mine is planning to invest $1 billion. First Quantum planned to invest in capital projects and a new smelter at the cost of $750 million. The Southeast ore body is $832 million. Intrepid Resources got SNC Lavalin to do a feasibility study for the Kitumba copper mine, which is in the Mumbwa region district. And it's how far west of Lusaka is it? It's like a new location. It's about 150 kilometers, Emmanuel. Yeah. So there's a copper mine, and new this one here is actually quite close to, relatively close to Lusaka and outside of the traditional copper belt. So it's like a new node that seems to be evolving there if these projects, which at this price is likely to go ahead. So we're also looking at Sino Metals Leach Zambia at the new project for $70 million, and Atletico Minerals. This is the gold mine situated. That's the one that I referred to earlier, close to Lusaka. So from that you can see, and this is some of it is already in progress, and some of it is spending that's going to take place in the future. I think most of us will be quite jealous if South Africa can have that kind of spending in its mining industry. So what I'm going to do now, without I'll try and be very short and sharp because you can read. Normally we arrive on the Sunday, and I'm not going to go into those details, but on the Monday we're looking at meeting with the High Commission. As Rees explained, what we'll try and do is very effectively get you that high-level insight, what's going to happen with the tax issues, the royalty issues, what's the outlook in terms of solving the energy crisis, because KCM and the government are in a bit of a tiff at the moment, with the one threatening to lay off people if they don't get the power cheaper. And so there's lots of things happening. It's Africa, it's exciting. There's never a dull moment. So the Zambia Development Agency if you're new to the area, or you're looking to establish a presence there, they are very important. ZESCO, power is a massive issue in that region. Chamber of Mines, very important, and we'll try and put up we will put up a very good networking session. Then we fly out to the new copper belt, and we go and visit the Kansanshi mine, First Quantum owned, and we'll say a little bit more about that mine just now. We always do the local authorities, very important to understand what's going to happen in Solwezi, the town of Solwezi, what their expenses are, and then in the evening we'll have some networking again as well. As you can see there, First Quantum is Canadian owned. There's the ownership structure. It's the largest mine in Zambia, and that's the capability of it. So it's really a massive mine, and it's just north of Solwezi. So the next day we check out and we go to the Barrick-owned mine, and we'll say a little bit more about that. On our way back east, we'll drive through the town of Solwezi and travel to Chingola from there. The Lumwana mine, it's owned by the world's largest gold mining company. Last year it produced 125,000 tons of copper. Production is expected to be similar next year, and it's got massive reserves of copper. So a long-term business relationship there will really stand you in good stead. KCM is then who we will visit the next. And then also the Mampani copper mine, and I'll say a few words about that. Again, in the copper belt, electricity or power energy supply is a big issue, and we'll look at engaging with Kitwe and Ndola. Local chambers of commerce have a very good networking session there. I'm not going to go through all of this. You can speed read it as it's up on the screen, but just to get an indication of the size of the operation, The mine has 3 operating shafts. The newest has a depth of 1,500 meters and was commissioned relatively recently, and the life of mine is still another 25 years. So really a major client there. Mopani Copper Mines, Swiss-based commodity company, Glencore is the owner. And again, the company has recently made a $1.3 billion investment into capital projects, including sinking and equipping 3 new shafts. So that's also definitely a long-term investment and a client to be seen. So we end off the visit by having a look at the cement story around Ndola. These companies listed here, including Dangote, Zambia, Portland Cement, CCM Investment Hold, or ZCCM, with Sino Construction, are going to invest close to $1 billion, is the one figure that I saw, in cement producing capacity. And what we're going to do there is find out what is the cement story. The intention there is to establish them as a major supplier of cement into the region, not just for Zambia. So that is my, I hope, short enough story about what it is we are going to do, and I really encourage you to join on the visit. I'll also be honest with you, in order to make this visit worthwhile, we need at least another 3 or 4 people to register. And especially for those of you who do regular business, join this group visit so that we establish a group presence and we address the issue of competitiveness. In my introduction, I mentioned that a lot of money will be spent in the region, and we're seeing competition not just from traditionally like China and that sort of thing coming through, but certainly from countries like Turkey, Morocco. Countries like that are increasingly seen in Africa and competing with us. And yeah, I'll take some questions at the end of the session.